Welcome to the Creeping Rainbow in Comics. I'm Mike Partika, and today we're going to be talking about Grendel, the Ignorant Tool. Now, if you're at all familiar with Matt Wagner's Grendel omnibus, and especially the subject of his first omnibus, Hunter Rose, you will know that Grendel is not an ignorant tool. He is one of the most dangerous and erudite villains there is. However, he was portrayed by Matt Wagner as an ignorant tool in one particular case. This was in the story Sympathy from the Devil, which was originally printed in the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund Liberty Annual for 2011. Now, the theme of this annual was It Gets Better, which is the slogan for the continued acceptance of homosexuality within society. And the story that Matt Wagner tells is of a gay mobster shown here in the foreground, who is part of Grendel's crew. Now, the other mobsters in the crew don't know that he's gay until they catch him blowing a guy. And after they dispose of the guy he was blowing, they are about to dispose of him, at which point, dun dun dun, Grendel himself steps in. Now, this is Hunter Rose, Grendel, and he asks basically, "What's going on, guys?" At which point the guys let loose with a string of invectives, homophobic invectives, basically describing various homosexual sex acts in derogatory ways. And Hunter Rose scolds them, and he scolds them by saying, "So he hasn't stolen from us or betrayed us, yet you're prepared to violate and punish him based on an antiquated text. Then I suppose you also refrain from eating shellfish or pork or wearing clothing that is woven of mixed fibers, and that you let your forelocks and beards grow entirely untrimmed. Admonishments from the same antiquated text." Well, this, of course, stuns the mobsters into submission, and Hunter Rose gracefully lets the gay mobster go. Well, here's the problem, though. Hunter Rose is demonstrating astounding ignorance when he says both of these things. For one thing, he starts by saying, "You're prepared to violate and punish him based on an antiquated text." Now, here's the problem I have with this. Based on an antiquated text, where does Hunter Rose get that idea? Because when he confronts the mobsters who are about to take this gay mobster's life, they let loose with this string of anti homosexual invectives. But what they don't say is any word that might indicate that they get their animosity from the Bible. They don't say sodomite, they don't say catamite, they don't say abomination, and they don't even say dog. These are all biblical terms that are used as pejoratives against homosexual men in the Bible, but they use none of these. And so, for what reason does Hunter Rose think that their animosity must therefore come from the Bible? Why can't it come from good old, plain old fashioned disgust? I don't know. Maybe this is no longer common knowledge. I'm pretty sure it was probably still common knowledge in 2011 when he wrote the story, but a lot of heterosexuals feel visceral disgust when they see homosexual displays. Now, I remember the first time as a child when I saw two guys kissing. It was like, what the hell was that? I think I was about probably 10 years old at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I just saw something. And it was like, what the hell was that? And the same sentiment persists to this day. I remember when I went to go see Eternals and we got to the scene in which you have a passionate goodbye kiss shared by two main male characters. Well, one main male character and a supporting character who plays his husband. Um, Someone in the audience literally went, ah. I'm like, that's not oh dear Jesus, this is against God sentiment. That's just, oh, I didn't want to see that. And I know people who are pro gay and yet have that same visceral response. I have a friend of mine. He says, when I travel out of town to see my gay friends, I don't stay at their house because if I heard the bed creaking, I don't care if they're just getting up to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I couldn't handle it. So there's a lot of internal oh, I don't want to say genetic, but at the same time, it's biological, natural revulsion there. And so when Hunter Rose makes this claim, you're prepared to violate and punish him based on an antiquated text. I have a feeling the guys were stunned into submission, not so much because he was right in a particular way, but because they just didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Now, he goes on to say something even, well, I'm not sure if it's even more ignorant, but it's definitely in a category of ignorance that is unbefitting the character of Hunter Rose. He says, then I suppose you also refrain from eating shellfish or pork or wearing clothing that is woven of mixed fibers, and that you let your forelocks and beards grow entirely untrimmed, admonishments from the same antiquated texts. Now, of course, Hunter Rose is referring here to the manners of dress and hair grooming that is common in, say, the Orthodox Jewish community. Now, we know that Christians don't dress like that, but I would expect some villain as erudite as Hunter Rose to understand why. Why is it that Christians don't follow the food laws, the dress laws, the hair trimming laws of the Old Testament? Well, he would know, I would think, that in the early days of Christianity, when Christianity had first formed, there was a council held at Jerusalem. It's described in Acts 15, where the apostles and elders got together and said, hey guys, I mean, we all know that Jesus rose from the dead and he got out of the tomb and he's alive and we believe in him and that's what makes us Christians. But you know, there's also this Old Testament with the law of Moses and there's this 613 commandments, and aren't we supposed to be obeying them too? And what they eventually decided is that no, faith in Jesus is enough. You're no longer under the old covenant, which required all of those commandments. You're under the new covenant, which, while still maintaining adherence to the moral aspects that are behind those commandments, you don't have to adhere to the commandments themselves if they don't directly impact any kind of moral matter. So for the Jews, it's important that they obey the food laws, the clothing laws, etc. But a Christian looks at that and says, well, there's nothing moral about what you eat versus what you don't eat. There's nothing moral about what you wear versus what you don't wear. I mean, unless you're just basically wearing a, F Joe Biden t-shirt or something. There's nothing in particular styles of dress or how you trim your hair or things like that and have any kind of moral worth to them. And so that's why when you look at Orthodox Jews who follow the laws strictly, they dress and look like this and they obey the kosher food laws. You look at Christians and they dress any particular way they want and they'll eat pork ribs until they burst. Now, does that mean that they'll also hold orgies? Well, no. The reason they don't do that is because that's still part of sexual morality. And guess what else is part of sexual morality? Homosexuality. The New Testament does not stop commenting on what is moral from a sexual perspective. And so the morality of the Old Testament continues through the New Testament, basically condemning homosexuality, but not condemning any of these minor things that Hunter Rose was talking about. And so I did not pick up that Grendel omnibus, largely because I did not like seeing Matt Wagner's great character reduced tragically by the author himself to this ignorant tool being used to justify homosexuality. It just wasn't fair to the character, and I didn't want that in my collection. So, this has been the latest episode of The Creeping Rainbow in Comics. Please do subscribe to make sure that you can catch the next installment, as well as my other commentary on politics and religion. And I hope you'll join me for the next episode. I will talk to you later.